Morgan stood by the tall, arched window of North Allerton Manor, her gaze lost in the thick fog that had settled over the gardens. The estate was magnificent, a sprawling testament to centuries of wealth and power. Yet this morning, it felt suffocating, like a beautiful prison she could never escape. Her hand tightened around the delicate porcelain cup she held, the coffee inside growing cold. She could faintly see the outline of the meticulously manicured hedges and the marble statues that dotted the grounds, relics of a world she had once dreamed of inhabiting. But the fog had swallowed them whole, just as her life had been swallowed by a relentless, gnawing anger that she could no longer ignore. She was Lady Morgan Wentworth now. The world knew her as the Honourable Countess of Northallerton, wife of the most sought-after royal bachelor, Count Sebastian Wentworth. Her face was splashed across magazines, her name whispered with reverence in circles she once could only dream of. She had a baby daughter, a future heiress to the Wentworth legacy, a life that millions envied. Yet as she stood there, her silk dressing gown clinging to her slender frame, the truth clawed at her insides like a caged beast. She had everything she had ever wanted: wealth, a title, worldwide fame. But she had never felt more hollow. Anger surged within her, hot and unbidden. With a swift, impulsive motion, she hurled the cup across the room. The porcelain shattered against the wall, the sound echoing through the silent halls of the grand estate. She watched the dark coffee splatter across the white walls, a stark contrast, like the life she lived versus the one she had imagined. A moment later, the door creaked open, and one of the royal aides, a young woman with wide, startled eyes, appeared in the doorway. "My lady?" she asked hesitantly, her voice trembling with fear of offending. Morgan didn't even turn to look at her. "Get out." Her voice was cold and sharp as the shards of porcelain scattered across the floor. The aide hurried out, the door closing softly behind her, leaving Morgan alone with her fractured thoughts. She turned away from the window and caught sight of herself in the mirror across the room. The woman staring back at her was stunning, impeccably dressed, every inch the countess she was expected to be. But beneath the surface, the carefully constructed mask was beginning to crack. She took a deep breath, her chest tight with the weight of unspoken words and unrealized dreams. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. The life she had worked so hard to create, the one she had fought for, had become a gilded cage, and she was trapped inside, suffocating under the weight of it all. "It wasn't supposed to be this way," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness of the room. But the mirror reflected nothing back except the same hollow eyes and the same empty life she had chosen, capturing the crown. Chapter 1. Morgan leaned against the kitchen counter, absently scrolling through her Instagram feed. The blue glow from her phone illuminated the darkened room, casting shadows on the walls of her Boston apartment. She paused at a post from a fellow actress, a woman she knew only in passing, but who had recently landed a lead role in a high-profile Netflix series. The comments were a deluge of praise and envy, hundreds of thousands of likes piling up by the minute. Morgan bit her lip, the familiar pang of jealousy twisting in her gut. 1 million followers. It was a respectable number, enough to get her invited to exclusive parties and paid appearances at trendy clubs. Enough to make her feel like she was on the cusp of something big, but not quite there. Despite her role on Ties, a show that had a loyal but modest audience, she wasn't a household name. She was still Morgan Smith, the actress who played the girlfriend of a guy who was only important because he worked for someone important. With a sigh, she locked her phone and set it down on the counter, staring out the window at the quiet Boston street below. The show was her steady gig, paying well enough to afford the apartment she shared with Rick, her boyfriend of 3 years. but it wasn't the breakthrough she'd imagined when she first stepped in front of the cameras. Rick's key turned in the door, and she heard him shuffling in, the scent of garlic and something else delicious wafting in with him. He worked long hours as a chef at La Via, a bustling Italian restaurant that had become a fixture in the city's dining scene. Despite his grueling schedule, he always came home with a smile, a bag of leftovers, and enough energy to ask her about her day. "Hey, babe," Rick called out, his voice warm and familiar. "You still up?" Morgan forced a smile as she walked over to greet him. "Yeah, couldn't sleep. Just thinking about some stuff." Rick set the bag of food on the counter and wrapped his arms around her, kissing the top of her head. "Thinking about work?" She nodded, leaning into him. "Yeah, it's just, I'm trying to figure out how to get to the next level, you know? I feel like I'm so close, but something's missing." Rick pulled back slightly, looking at her with concern. "You're doing great, Morgan. You're on a show that people love, and you've got a huge following. What more could you want?" "More," she said simply, her voice tinged with frustration. "I want more. I want to be the one everyone's talking about. I want to be the lead, not just the girlfriend of the lead's assistant. I want to walk down the street and have people recognize me, not just because they follow me on Instagram, but because they've seen me in something important." Rick nodded, understanding. "So, what's the plan?" Morgan walked back to the counter, picking up her phone and opening her notes app. She had been brainstorming for weeks, jotting down ideas on how to elevate her career. Some of them were bold, maybe even reckless. But she was tired of playing it safe. "I've been thinking about doing something viral," she said, scrolling through her notes. "Something that will get people talking. Or maybe collaborating with someone big on social media, someone who can put me in front of a different audience. I don't know yet. I just know I need to. Shake things up." Rick watched her, his expression thoughtful. "You know I'm with you, whatever you decide. But just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "That you won't lose yourself in all of this. Fame is great, but it's not worth it if it changes who you are." Morgan smiled, touched by his words. "I promise." But as she leaned in to kiss him, her mind was already racing, considering her next move. She loved Rick, loved their life together in Boston, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant for something bigger, something that would finally put her on the map. And she was determined to find it, no matter what it took. Morgan sat in the sleek conference room of her agent's office, her fingers nervously tapping the arm of her chair. The walls were adorned with framed posters of Hollywood blockbusters and glossy magazine covers featuring stars she admired. The energy in the room was palpable, a constant reminder that she was surrounded by people who lived and breathed success. Across from her was her agent, Jonathan. Jonathan, a sharp-dressed man in his 40s with an air of effortless confidence, leaned forward, steepling his fingers as he spoke. "So, Morgan, we've got some great news," Jonathan began, his tone smooth and reassuring. "We've been talking with the team over at Cielo, huge retailer, as you know, and they're very interested in partnering with you on a capsule collection. They want you to be the face of it, of course, and they're offering a really solid deal." Morgan felt her heart sink, though she kept her expression neutral. Cielo was a popular brand, loved by influencers and fashion-forward millennials alike. It was a great opportunity, one that would undoubtedly boost her visibility and income. But it wasn't the kind of offer she had been hoping for. She had dreamed of seeing her face on billboards for a luxury brand, Chanel, Dior, or Gucci, something that screamed high fashion and exclusivity. She forced a smile, nodding as if she were thrilled. "Wow, that's amazing. I mean, Cielo is huge. I'm really honored that they want to work with me." He beamed, clearly pleased with Morgan's reaction. "We think it's the perfect next step for you, Morgan. The collection would be curated with your personal style in mind, and it's going to be marketed to your demographic perfectly. This could really cement your status as a style icon. Morgan nodded again, her smile never wavering. Absolutely. It sounds like a fantastic opportunity. Inside, her thoughts were spinning. This isn't what I wanted. I wanted something bigger, something that would put me in a different league. But she knew better than to voice her disappointment. Every step was important, every move a building block toward the kind of fame she craved. Jonathan slid a folder across the table to her. Take a look at the proposal when you get a chance. We've already gone through it, and everything looks great. The team at Cielo is really excited to start working on this with you. Morgan took the folder, glancing at the neatly printed documents inside. I'll go over it tonight, she said, her voice steady. I'm really looking forward to this. As the meeting wrapped up, Jonathan continued to chat about the logistics, throwing around terms like target market and brand synergy. Morgan nodded along, making mental notes, but her mind was elsewhere. She was picturing the next few months, photo shoots for the collection, social media campaigns, appearances at Cielo events. It was all good, it was all progress, but it wasn't the splash she had envisioned. She shook hands with her agent, exchanged pleasantries, and promised to get back to him with any questions. But as she stepped out of the office and into the bright afternoon sunlight, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of frustration. Walking down the bustling street, Morgan took a deep breath, trying to clear her head. This was part of the journey, she reminded herself. You didn't become a star overnight. It was a series of carefully planned moves, each one building on the last. One day, she thought, one day, I'll get that call, the one where they tell me I'm the new face of a global luxury brand, where my image is plastered on billboards from Paris to Tokyo. But for now, she would focus on making the most of this opportunity. She had to. Remember that every step, no matter how small, was a step forward. And she was determined to keep moving forward, no matter what. Morgan rolled out her yoga mat next to Julia's, the familiar scent of lavender and eucalyptus filling the room. The yoga studio was their sanctuary, a place where they could unwind, clear their minds, and catch up on each other's lives. Twice a week, without fail, they met here, letting the stress of their careers melt away, even if just for an hour. Julia, a stylish woman in her late 30s with a mane of wavy chestnut hair, adjusted her leggings and flashed Morgan a warm smile. Ready to get zen? She asked, her voice light and teasing. Morgan chuckled, settling into a seated position. As ready as I'll ever be. The instructor began the class with a calming sequence of deep breaths and gentle stretches, guiding the group through a series of poses that flowed seamlessly, one into the next. Morgan focused on her breathing, trying to quiet the constant chatter in her mind. She and Julia had been doing this for years, ever since they first met on the set of Ties. Julia was the lead stylist for the show, her impeccable taste and sharp eye for detail making her a sought-after name in the industry. She had brushed shoulders with Hollywood's elite, appeared on daytime TV segments, and was well connected in Boston's fashion and entertainment scenes. Julia had also been a lifeline for Morgan, especially during the rough patches. She knew everything about Morgan's divorce 4 years ago, a painful chapter that had left Morgan questioning her place in the world. It was Julia who had introduced her to Rick, who started as a rebound, but had become a steady presence in her life. As the class moved into Downward Dog, Morgan glanced over at Julia, grateful for her friendship. Julia had seen her at her worst and had celebrated with her at her best. She was the kind of friend who knew when to push and when to just listen. After class, the two women gathered their things and headed out to a nearby cafe for lunch, a post-yoga ritual they both cherished. The small, Trendy Spot was bustling with the lunchtime crowd, but they managed to snag a cozy table by the window. Julia ordered her usual an avocado toast and a green smoothie, while Morgan opted for a quinoa salad. As they waited for their food, Julia leaned in, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "So, how did the meeting with your agent go?" Morgan took a sip of her water, bracing herself for the conversation. "It went well. He got me a new deal, a capsule collection with Cielo." "Morgan, that's amazing," Julia smiled. "Congratulations." Morgan smiled, though the excitement didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's not exactly what I was hoping for, but it's still a big step." Julia tilted her head, picking up on the subtle hint of disappointment. "What were you hoping for?" Morgan shrugged. "I don't know. Something bigger. I guess I was dreaming of getting a call from a luxury brand, something that would really elevate my image, you know? But I keep reminding myself that every step forward is important." Julia reached across the table, giving Morgan's hand a reassuring squeeze. "You're right. Every step is important. And this deal with Cielo is going to open up even more doors for you. Trust me, I've seen it happen a million times. You start with something like this, and before you know it, you're on the radar of those luxury brands." Morgan nodded, her spirits lifting slightly. "You're probably right. It's just hard to be patient sometimes." "Patience, my dear, is a virtue," Julia said with a wink. "And you've got all the right ingredients to make it big. You just need to keep doing what you're doing. Stay focused, keep putting yourself out there, and the right opportunities will come." Their food arrived, and they dug in, the conversation shifting to lighter topics. Julia filled Morgan in on the latest gossip from the Thai set, while Morgan shared a funny story about Rick's latest culinary experiment at the restaurant. They laughed and chatted like old friends, the weight of their careers momentarily forgotten. But as they finished their meal and headed out into the afternoon sun, Morgan couldn't help but think about Julia's words. She knew Julia was right. She just needed to keep moving forward, one step at a time. And with a friend like Julia by her side, the journey didn't seem quite so daunting. Later that evening, Morgan curled up on the sofa with a cup of chamomile tea. A stack of self-help books within arm's reach. The titles ranged from the power of positive thinking to manifesting your dreams. Over the past year, she had become an avid reader of these kinds of books, seeking wisdom and strategies that might give her the edge needed to break through in her career. As she flipped through the pages of the latest one, Strategic Living, How to Play the Long Game, her thoughts drifted to Rick. They had settled into something comfortable, almost routine. Rick was steady, dependable, and kind. It didn't hurt that he was a popular chef in Boston either, opening up his social circle to Morgan early into their relationship. But as much as she cared for Rick, Morgan couldn't shake the nagging feeling that their relationship wasn't built to last. They had fun together, enjoyed each other's company, and shared a lot of great memories. But when she looked into the future, she couldn't see Rick in the picture, not in the way she envisioned her life unfolding. Morgan knew what she wanted. She wanted to be a star, to live a life of glamour and success. She dreamed of walking red carpets, attending exclusive events, and being the face of luxury brands. And while Rick was a talented chef and a wonderful partner, she couldn't help but feel that they were on different paths. Yet she also knew how important it was to play her cards right. Rick was supportive and grounded her in ways that were valuable, especially in the chaotic world of showbiz. Their relationship had its perks, not just emotionally, but also in the image it allowed her to maintain. She was very careful about how she presented herself to the world, and that included her relationship with Rick. Unlike many of her peers, Morgan wasn't interested in splashing their relationship all over social media. Their romance was something she kept private, known only to close friends and family. She had seen too many public relationships crash and burn under the weight of scrutiny and speculation. Morgan was determined to keep her personal life as drama-free as possible, a sanctuary from the often ruthless entertainment industry. As she read a passage about the importance of aligning one's personal life with one's goals, Morgan found herself reflecting on the delicate balance she was trying to maintain. She genuinely cared about Rick, but she was also aware that her ambitions might eventually outgrow their relationship. For now, though, she was content to keep things as they were, enjoying the comfort and stability Rick provided while keeping her eyes firmly on her goals. She took a sip of her tea, letting the warmth soothe her as she underlined a particularly resonant sentence. In the game of life, every move should be made with intention. That was exactly how Morgan approached her life, strategically, with every step carefully considered. She wasn't about to let anything, or anyone, derail her from the path she was on. Setting the book aside, Morgan glanced at her phone. A message from Rick popped up, asking if she wanted to meet for a late-night snack after his shift ended. She smiled softly, typing a quick response. Sure, see you in a bit. She liked that they didn't have to broadcast their relationship to the world, that they could enjoy each other's company without the pressure of public perception. For now, Rick was exactly what she needed, a grounding force in her life, someone who understood her without demanding more than she was willing to give. As she headed out the door to meet him, Morgan reminded herself that everything was going according to plan. She was playing her cards right, and in the end, she was confident it would all pay off.